welcome in. I am Miss Kinghorn and we are back here in Planet Zoo, and we are back in our Red Lane Zoo, and we have finished with phase 1. So the way that I've kind of set this up, and if you haven't seen any of the other videos, go check out the playlist. I will link it in the top corner for you right now. But basically we are following a real life zoo map, and to do that we are kind of going around zone by zone. And so we've kind of done our first area, which had obviously all of the red river hogs, it had the wild boar, and obviously the cheeky little raccoons and armadillos that we have had lately. And now we are on to phase 2, which is the Cream Family Farm, which we are starting right now. So this is actually a collection of only 3 habitats, but it has a lot of other kind of bits in it as well. I don't want to give too much away of future content, but we definitely have 3 habitats, one of which we are working on today. And this is for the llama. So we actually have quite a big animal here, which is good because we've been working on tiny and small animals for a really long time that I'm kind of done with little animals. So yeah, it was an interesting and good one to kind of work on, do something a little bit bigger. And yeah, so we have this gorgeous fence. So this is the fence that we're going to use for these 3 habitats, and it's quite a nice sort of, I think, normal fence as well. It kind of looks more kind of like a paddock, like you would on a farm or something like that, which is kind of what we are going for in here and with this collection of animals as well. So yeah, we have it's quite simple. It is just Indonesian round pieces, and then a simple little caps on the top and along the sides, and then just some simple little bushes along the front here, just to kind of make it feel a little bit more. And there's me trying to get the angle of this all right in here so that the kids can see it, because I didn't want to make the same mistake that I made last time where you couldn't really see if you were an adult. The fence just slightly clipped in last time, and I didn't want to do that this time in here. And yeah, that's what we are working on. But this is quite a nice, it's a decent size area for them. It's a bit of an odd shape, I have to give that to you. So kind of to give a bit of an idea of where this is, the initial roundabout that you came to when you kind of drove into the car park, basically it's just the other side of that. So we have a large kind of, I think it's called the green on the map. It's kind of like an event open area, and I have kind of left it as a bit of an open area in there, and then I've kind of treed and put a little bit of a woodland kind of area along the sort of main road, just to give you a little bit of sort of privacy for a noise barrier from the road to this habitat. And then we've kind of got this little area in here, and I do create a nice little fence and stuff like that, just to make it a little more sort of private in here for them as well. So this area is sort of a separate, I wasn't really going to do a separate entrance. I was going to do it as part of the sort of main zoo, but it could very well be sort of shut off. And so as you can see here on the left is kind of the green event area, and then we've kind of got a little hedge, and then a little bit of a gap where the woodland kind of comes through. And this is actually where I place the sort of custom gate, so we kind of have a separate area where you can kind of shut it all off if you really wanted to, maybe at night or something like that, as a separate area. It could only maybe open certain days of the week or something like that. That's kind of what I was thinking in my head. And yeah, you can kind of see the weird shape of this habitat there. Yeah, it kind of has a little really narrow sort of pinch point. Not necessarily what I wanted. I kind of went with a tree line behind this habitat, and where I kind of put the path in, and I just kind of made it all up, and that's kind of what I went with. Now, this area here, this is actually going to be the hard shelter. So this whole area kind of feels very much like a farm, and that's kind of what I wanted. So I wanted very American kind of southern kind of barns, so very much like your red barn that you would typically find in this sort of area. That's kind of what I was going for, but I've changed the colours out a little bit. I've done a few little changes here and there, and obviously this one is a gorgeous white kind of grey kind of colour, with lovely hints of dark green, which I'm loving that colour at the moment. Now, there is a slight disclaimer, this habitat is in the shadows, so you're looking at this, it is quite dark. From the other side it is really light, and I struggle with it because it's in that weird little spot, and yeah, it's gonna throw up a few little issues when you get to it, and I hope you can see this all okay in here. It is very different lighting when you get to the sides, let's put it that way, and I do realise that when I'm building this, that it is quite difficult to work on, but this is sort of a viewing area. This leads into the hard shelter, which I have put individual stalls in, so this window isn't necessarily the best view because you only really have a small little area to see in, but I thought it was a really nice sort of area. You can see sort of behind the scenes of those sorts of things, and yeah, got some gorgeous little shutters. So this is kind of a little bit of maybe a little bit colonialism kind of farming buildings coming in, just a few little hints here and there, and this is kind of the build style that we're going for with this sort of section up here. And I try to get in some windows, and in the end we go for these little ones, and we kind of double them up. They don't quite fit the sort of the shutters here, but I think that all works out okay in the end. And then I realised that I've messed up with the grid sections on here, but yeah, that is going to be the front facade of this building, and we end up with a nice simple little roof, kind of a little overhang just to give it a little bit of more shade coming down the front here. And also I feel like these kind of builds have a lot of kind of like front porches, and I didn't really want to do one in here, but I felt like it needed something. It just needed that little something to come in along here. So yeah, that's the plan. I do end up taking the roof right down, so that it doesn't show when you look through the window, you can't actually see that. So that is all sort of covered when we get to it in there. But yeah, nice simple brown flooring. I struggled, I didn't really know what to do for the walls in here because I felt like the animals would rub up against them, so I kind of just left them as these sort of like wooden sort of boards. Normally I would put plaster on them, but I just didn't feel right for the whole sort of look of the build, so I kind of left them open and exposed, which I guess in a way could work, because maybe if they go a little bit worn or something, you could just replace that individual sort of wooden panel piece. I don't know, that's a little bit of realism that doesn't make any sense to anyone else, so I will stop. These are the little stalls that I'm getting in here. This is just sort of working out where I wanted the little doors to go, because I really wanted this to look like a stable block, that kind of could work anywhere in here. Slight disclaimer, I actually changed some of these to get them to fit, because I did have a few issues with the animals not being able to get in. So yeah, I have had to make the doors all slightly bigger than what you're going to see in here. I didn't realise until I put the animals in right at the end when I had finished recording, which is very annoying. Normally I put the animals in beforehand, or like once I've kind of created the fencing, But for this one, it just doesn't feel right to have the animals in here when I'm still building. So I kind of left them out and yeah, regretted it. But these are, again, using quite a lot from the Indonesian pack or items. That is that kind of wood texture that I really like in here. It just sort of fits that whole sort of vibe that I'm going for. So yeah, we've seen it a lot with the other builds where it's in that sort of like darker wood colour. This one is kind of a bit more painted in here, which I thought was a really nice little detail. These are the simple little stable doors that yeah, I cursed out eventually while filming this because simple they are not. Try rotating them. It just didn't quite fit in here. Now whether they can actually shut, whether they fit, whether they're shutted, I don't know. But I think they should do. It should all be the same measurements at this point. But the idea is there, so you can shut all of the animals in if you sort of needed to. That's kind of the idea that I'm going for when I created this little sort of stable indoor hard shelter area for them, which I thought was super cute. Into here, and I didn't put any glass through this sort of window because I didn't think it would really need it, but then looking at it now, it really like it would be exposed and let the wind and the rain and stuff through, which is a bit of a shame. But I don't know if window glass in there would just break with the animals, so I kind of left them a little bit open. Maybe I should have done them for solid, but anyway, all of the things I've done wrong, let's not talk about them into there. Right, so yeah, this little roof is very simple, wanting to kind of keep it in line with what we've kind of got at the front here, and realizing that again I need to use another building set because everything is a custom size. And yeah, I had fun building this. So slight little overhang again because it's all custom size, and yeah, it works out really well. And as I say, I feel like because maybe it's the first building over here, it looks slightly off, but once I kind of get it all in this sort of style in this whole sort of area, I think it will work out really well in here, and it will fit a lot better as well, because there are going to be quite a few buildings in this area. As I say, not giving too much away, you'll have to tune in for another videos for that, but yeah, there is going to be quite a few different builds going into this sort of section over here, and that is what I'm saying. Right then, so more windows. I've only done the windows on the front, I haven't done them on the back or on the side because I wasn't sure whether I was going to add another building to the other side of this, so I kind of wanted to keep it a little bit more optional, and you can't see out the back, so it didn't really make sense to put a window there. It would have just annoyed me that if there was a window there and I couldn't really see because of the trees. So yeah, more of these planting just to kind of make it look as realistic as I possibly could and fit in along the front here. And now we are on to actually working out the habitat. Now this was actually, doing this bit was actually quite quick. After all the time we spent working on the kind of hard shelter, the actual habitat goes through pretty quickly. So these are the pre-made rocks that I created. They are basically just got simple buffalo grass going through them, and sort of lots of rocks in different shapes and sort of heights and stuff. And I kind of use them and mix them all up into here to kind of create a really nice sort of different height terrains and stuff like that coming through in here, and then the food and sort of water that we get down, and then some enrichment dotted throughout this whole sort of area, just kind of to make it a little bit more interesting. And I wanted the animals to use different areas of this, so I didn't want them to all be kind of up in this sort of big area where the guests are first going to see them, because I felt like that was going to be, they were just then going to say, well, I've seen them, so I'm going to give up. I wanted to draw people along this sort of path and up to the other end of the habitat. So there's a lot of enrichment sort of all dotted around, and then more buffalo grass. Now, as usual, I kind of tone this up a little bit, so we use sort of the normal green sort of grass, and then I use the dry grass and even the I'm not even sure, it's like the dead grass. It's kind of like really sort of yellowy, orangey kind of colour grass, just in a few places, just to kind of make it look like maybe they've munched on it and they've eaten it all down and it's not doing too well. That's kind of what I was thinking in places, because I didn't want it to be all bare ground. I did want to have sort of areas where there is some grass growing in through here, but I do also have sort of some in-game sort of terrain long grass in here, and I added a few little bumps and hills into this because it was all going to be flat and it just didn't feel right. So I've added a few little areas, nothing too major in here, but just a few little areas just to give it a little bit of height and a little bit of sort of difference, just to sort of come up through all of this. And then we use the fake rocks from the aquatic pack, just sort of dotted in between. The animals can walk all over this absolutely fine. They don't have a problem with all of these. They're so well put into the ground that it just doesn't have an impact for them. But it just sort of makes it a really nice sort of rocky area throughout. And it fills up a nice little area in here, and you'll sort of see that over some of the drier sort of soily bits I also put them in just to make it look like normal sort of ground, because the ground isn't normally just soil, it does have sort of rock in it as well, and it just looks prettier with a few rocks dotted here and there. This is sort of a big section where it just joins the two sort of grass areas up into here, sort of dotted throughout here as well. And I actually really like this habitat. It's a little bit different in terms of sort of to what I would normally do. I feel like we've worked on some that are kind of very plant based, like, and this does have a lot of plants, and the animals don't particularly like the planting, I've got to be fair. The llamas are actually really picky when it comes to their planting. There wasn't that many options, so I kind of just threw that idea out the board, and I have animal welfare switched off, so they don't complain about plants or terrain needs or anything like that. It is just really what would really work in a zoo, and this is a zoo based in North America that kind of caters to animals that are North American, South American. There are going to be a few from sort of Europe or Asia coming through just here and there, where there's not an equivalent to what there normally would be, sort of in there. But I'm trying to keep it to as many sort of North or South American countries as possible into there. But we are whizzing through all of this sort of planting, as you can see here, and then the little tree guards. These again I made before we even started, so I kind of have a little collection of little bits and pieces dotted around in here, and I kind of wanted to bring the sort of woodland into this habitat, so it does have lots of trees dotted throughout, just to add to sort of that nice kind of look that we're going for in here, with lots of sort of trees. Most of them again North or sort of South American, but there are also a few others that don't maybe necessarily work in here. I struggle with trees for this area as well, so yeah. But I will leave you very here with the screenshots, and I will see you all very, very soon. But until then, stay happy and stay building, everyone. Bye!